Welcome, idiots. Welcome to another episode of Idiots Squared. So, this week we discussed optical illusion, reality. Is it really what you think it is? Do your senses lie to you? We check out a bunch of optical illusions, auditory illusion. We get into possession, ghosts, the supernatural. We talk about the Ruliad, Rulial Space, psychedelics, transforming and transporting your reference frame. We go through a whole bunch of stuff, and we have a lot of lols, especially towards the end. The podcast kind of divulges into a funny place. Anyway, have fun, enjoy the episode, and peace. We're live. Polska, how's it going? Being a rocket today?
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. I'm hoping we take this rocket to the goddamn moon, just like all crypto, where all crypto's headed, right?
Yeah, apparently that's exactly where it's headed. So this, we're going to get into how our senses help us, but also deceive us, and how we don't actually see reality for what it is, really, so to speak, and how our brain hallucinates and sort of makes it up, and how our senses can deceive us, but can also help us. Optical illusions, auditory illusions, all the different stuff. And yeah, we're going to jump straight into it. So are you familiar with these kinds of things? Are you interested in them?
I mean, I am interested in them, yeah, but familiar, not really. I'm just on this rocket ship to the moon, guy, ready to learn some shit. So I'm strapped in, ready to go, guy.
All right, nice. So basically, I wanted to start off just by showing a few optical illusions and listening to a few auditory illusions. Now, the auditory one involves a little bit of optical as well. So if you're ready, we can sort of click on. I'm just going to share my screen.
Our senses, like our opinions, are biased and depend on our internal makeup. A good example of this is color blindness. But it's not just our vision that can deceive us, it's all of our senses. Listen to this audio clip. Each time you hear it, try to hear either brainstorm or green needle. Which one do you hear? You hear whichever one you want to hear. Your perception is influenced by your state of mind, by what you're expecting to hear. These are just a few examples of how our experiences depend more on what we're expecting than what's actually there. But not only are our senses easily deceived, they're also incredibly limited.
When I first heard the clip, that tripped me out, man. It sounded like a scary movie or something. And I thought I heard something like needle, and then once, but like I didn't hear the word needle. I don't know what I heard. It was weird. And then when the part like showed like if you focus in on green needle or brainstorm, that's the one you're going to hear. But I tried focusing on brainstorm and I never heard brainstorm. I continued hearing green needle. Can you hear brainstorm?
Okay, so I'll just quickly, I'll have to watch it again, but I'll let you know what I do. I've done a similar thing. So also, if you in the comments comment what you heard, that's also interesting, because the reality is it's not saying any of those things. It's essentially just like random noise, and
Right.
our brain based off what we want to see, so to speak. Our brain predicts that. Now we'll get into a little bit more. So I'll just quickly watch it again. Okay, so I hear brainstorm, and I try to hear green needle, but I can't.
What the fuck? Because I'm trying to hear brainstorm and I can't hear brainstorm.
Yeah. So this is
crazy.
fascinating, right? Even though I want to,
Yeah.
I still can't. So it means I don't have as much control over my perception as I would like to think I do, maybe. But isn't that fascinating that it can be the exact same sound? You hear one thing and I hear another thing.
Yeah, that is weird.
So what do you kind of take
That is
away
weird.
from that?
I mean, I've always been told that I'm what's it called?
Special?
when you think you're a good singer but you're not, they call, what are they?
Tone deaf.
That's it. That I'm tone deaf, right? So it's probably saying brainstorm. I just can't fucking hear it because I'm tone deaf. So that's what I'm blaming it on. but I am a
Okay.
good singer.
Okay. So the takeaway is, like, as funny as that is, the takeaway is that it's not saying any of them, right? It's not actually saying any of them.
I know, but
It's
I can't get it. I can't get it to. I can't perceive it saying brainstorm.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's telling us that we don't have the level of control over our perception that we would need or want to have to be able to do that. So for whatever reason, our brains are predicting a certain thing, and we're sort of
Yeah.
stuck in predicting that thing. So I like to think I've got good self-control, right, over my conscious and subconscious to a degree, but I clearly don't have the level of self-control or control to hear green needle, because all I hear is brainstorm. And I try and hear green needle. I've tried this so many times. And I just keep hearing brainstorm. So my brain is locked into making that prediction.
Sound.
Yeah.
Is
But
it
you go.
is it possible that when you played the video for the very first time, you honed in on the word brainstorm, so you associated what the auditory sound was with brainstorm? Because I in fact looked at the word green needle first. So then I tried hearing green needle first, and then I went to brainstorm. But if you started with brainstorm and then went to green needle, maybe that's why your brain has just stayed on brainstorm, whereas mine has just stayed on green needle, because I did that association first. Did you do the
Yeah.
brainstorm first?
Yeah, I think I did. And it also kind of illuminates this thing. It's like, once you've found a model that works, it's very hard to not use it. Right? Even if it might not be
Yeah.
as useful or exactly what you want, so to speak, it's hard to not use it because it works. And I find these things fascinating, because the reality is the noise that's getting played isn't brainstorm or green needle. It's just noise. Okay. And then because we see a word there and another word there, we associate it with one of those. Isn't that crazy? Our brain is making it up.
I mean, when it's because the word that you see, like green needle, you're trying to hear that sound, and the sound. I mean, have you, yeah, it is. It's
It's
fucked,
mind
right?
blowing.
Yeah, it is fucked, because have you ever read that illusion where you're reading colors? So a color spelled out, but it's in a different color. So it's spelled out as you see the word green, right? But the color of the letters is red, and you're trying to say the color of the letters and not read the actual word, and it's difficult to do.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. So damn, I want to go back and see if I can hear brainstorm now, man. I want
Or break your
to fucking
brain.
hear brainstorm.
So you can practice that,
Yeah.
right? I do suggest practicing, and we'll get further into this. But what it's really illuminating to us is we don't see reality for what it really is. We see reality for what we predict it to be.
I find that that's an issue in my day-to-day life sometimes, where I will associate something, and I'll just, when I find something where I'm comfortable, or where I find something that's working, I'll keep doing it. I'll keep doing it. And if someone comes along and says, "Yo, Polska, that's cool and all, but have you tried doing it this way?" And in my immediate thought is like, "Yo, but it's already fucking working, right?" And I have a hard time sometimes getting away from that and trying another way that could possibly be better, right? So because my brain already associated green needle with that sound, it's hard for me to now hear brainstorm, because I've already made that association. And I am that way in real life, like day to day. And I've
We
always
all
just
are.
struggled with that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but we all are. And this is like we addressed this in 2 and 3 podcasts back. This is this explore versus exploit, right? Like you found a way that works, and why wouldn't you exploit it? It's efficient to exploit it. And so to change that means you have to go and explore. And when you're exploring, it means you can't be exploiting. And so there's a trade-off, right? And so you have to weigh all these things up. So if your model works, then it is hard to go and explore others or just temporarily dispel or pause that model and try on new ones. But this is where perspective shifts are powerful. This is psychedelics. This is why they are helpful or can be helpful with certain things, because they sort of force you to see it from a different perspective, so to speak. Dispel your current beliefs and see it a new way.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to. It feels great though when you do finally get over that, when you do try something new or you do try another way and you realize that, oh, this way is actually working better. It feels really good when you do
Yes,
overcome those obstacles. I fucking love
absolutely. I want to put a pin in that, and I want to come back to it later. But there's this concept of entropy explosion and entropy collapse, and how entropy explosion is when uncertainty starts to explode or it exponentially starts to increase, and how that is like negative affect or pain and fear and all of those negative emotions or that negative space. And then you have entropy collapse, which is when all of the uncertainty and unknown collapses down into known, and that's associated with pleasure and positive affect. So mad interesting concept. We'll put a pin in, we're going to come back to it. Okay, so illusions. What this is really showing us is that we never see reality for what it really is, okay? And that it's all observer dependent. So we see it through our lens, and we impose or we interpret signals through our lens, and then we impose the meaning onto it. So we hallucinate the reality. Our brain predicts it. All right. This is this crazy thing. So that was an auditory one. I have some optical ones up, and I'll share my screen and we can sort of talk through. Here's a cool website. American Museum of Natural History, optical illusions and how they work. Seeing is believing, right? Well, actually, what you see and what you think are different things. Your senses gather information and send it to your brain, but your brain does not simply receive this information, it creates your perception of the world. This means that sometimes your brain fills in gaps where there is incomplete information or creates an image that isn't even there. I'm just going to zoom in on this a little bit. Okay, so I'll just quickly finish that. Why does this happen? Evolution. Survival depends on fast reactions. Your brain has evolved to work quickly to piece together whatever bits and fragments it can get. And to do this, it's best to figure out the rest. Want proof of the work your brain is doing behind the scenes? Set your sights on some mind-bending optical illusions. So let's go. Excited. I'm going to have to, we'll have to like crop this somehow. What do you see?
Oh, well, I'm going to fuck this one up because I've seen this one before. There's two things here. Should I ruin it, or have you seen this one before?
Oh, I see two faces.
Yeah, I see two faces like looking at each other, and then
Correct.
If you just look at the yellow portion, it looks like a cup that that would have, I don't know, it's one of those cups.
Looks like a candlestick holder to me, guy.
Yeah, like yeah, that's a better way to put it. Yeah, like a candlestick holder. Yeah,
All
nice.
right, let's go next. Let's show me. Okay, or a vase. Do you see a vase or two faces?
Vase.
Either way, you're correct. Well, I see both.
Yeah, and it's because I've seen this one before. So
yeah,
that's a popular one actually.
So it says you might not be able to see the vase and the faces, but you probably can. You probably can't see both at the same time. Why is that? Your brain has to make decisions about which part of the picture is the object and which part is the background. Maybe you see faces. That means your brain is interpreting the rest of the picture as a vase, but as the background. Maybe you see the vase instead. In that case, your brain is interpreting the rest of the picture not as faces, but as the background. So I can see both, but I have to swap between to see both, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think naturally you have to swap between both, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go do another one. What animal do you see?
Okay. At first glimpse, I see a duck's head.
Yeah.
Right? A duck's head, and what other animal? Like, I know it's gonna be two animals. What animals do you see?
I see a duck's head as well. So let's show us.
Like maybe a fish. Maybe a fish.
Ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen this one before.
How is that a rabbit? Oh, okay. Yes, I see it. That's interesting. Now I see it.
Oh, damn. Yeah. Yeah, I see the rabbit now. Oh, this is a good one.
That is a good one.
Fuck.
Okay. All right. Next one. Let's have a look at incomplete information. What do you see?
I mean, I see 4 Pac-Man heads and a white square. And, or I mean, like a 4-leaf clover. Or
Pac-Man head.
Or there could be like 4 trees connected. 4 trees that have like a square, like where the leaves would be, like a head with a square head.
Listening to you explain things is hilarious. I love it. So for me, what I see is 4 3/4 circles and a square in front, which makes me think that there are 4 circles, 4 blue circles and a white square in front of them.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look.
So what is...
Oh, okay. So it's actually, you're right. It's just 4 Pac-Man heads. 4 3/4 circles. See that?
Yeah.
And then we hallucinate the fact that there's a square there in front of them. That's so fascinating. I love that. How good is that?
Right.
See how it's like cool. unknown. And watch this. Ready? Entropy collapse. Boom. We make an assessment when it comes together. We're like, oh yeah, we know that. That's familiar. Boom. Oh, that's so cool. All right. When an image is incomplete, your brain fills in the gaps by figuring out the most likely interpretation. This helps you quickly make decisions. Usually your brain is right, but this time it made you see something that isn't there. I love that.
Yeah, this is exciting, guy. I haven't seen that one either before. I've never seen that. I've only seen that first one with the vase.
Is this scene moving or staying still?
Oh, cool. If I move side to side, I can get it moving pretty good. Oh, dude, this one would be so crazy on mushrooms. Holy. Yeah.
Or LSD.
I can get it moving, but I think if we made it bigger, it'd be even easier.
Yeah. So I'm going to say it's static, but I'm going to say that our brain is being tricked into perceiving it to be moving in a sense, or slightly, because I can see it moving as well, but I would be certain that it is actually just a static picture. So let's have a look. Yes. If you see the scene to be moving, then your brain is being tricked. I love this. The illusion is triggered by eye movements. When you stare at a still object, your eyes dart around. Normally, your brain can tell the difference between your eyes moving and an object moving. But because of the strong contrasts and shapes in the illusion, your brain gets confused. Your motion sensors switch on and the image seems to turn. Your brain evolved to focus attention on movement because it can be a sign of danger. But in the case of this image, the movement you see is an illusion created by your mind. Love that. All right, next one. We'll go 1 or 2 more and then we'll go from here. Oh, click through the image. I just see a guy that's balding.
Yeah, look, he looks like a ref.
Yeah, he has
a ref shirts on.
Mad good nostrils for inhalations. All right, keep going. Look at the drawing. What do you see? A mouse.
Yeah. I could also still see the guy's head, though. Like, see where the mouse's ears are? Those would be his glasses, right?
Yeah. Correct.
But
I can see. But I definitely jumped straight to mouse. Let's try another. Oh, okay, mouse.
All right. Yeah, it's a mouse.
Hilarious, because now I see the guy's head more.
Yeah, I can still see the guy's head, and yeah, it's definitely also a mouse.
All right, Let's have a look. Did you see a man in the first drawing and a mouse in the second? The two drawings you saw are exactly the same. Yeah, no shit. Did they look different to you? If so, it's because an effect known as priming. If you look at the photo of a mouse first, you're more likely to see the drawing as a mouse. Looking at the photo of a man first, you're more likely to see the drawing as a man. The first picture changes how you see the second. Why does this happen? Your senses flood your brain with information, and you can't possibly pay attention to it all. To help you survive, your brain evolved to decide quickly what to focus on. So oh, sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say priming is a crazy thing that we can do to one another. Remember how you talked about priming your buddy at the gym when you guys played rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, I've used this so often since I've learned about it. It's insane. And the craziest thing is it actually happens to us on an individual, on a community, on a societal level through news and media, and propaganda, like all of the different things, are used to do this as well. It's crazy. So I just clicked off for a sec so we can have a chat about all this. When I first started getting into this kind of stuff, it blew my mind, right? Because I think it's very intuitive as a person to think that what you see is real, like that it correlates pretty well to, cause and effect and things that happen and like, but it isn't. Our brain is predicting and hallucinating and guessing so much of this stuff. And a really interesting thing in that last section, as it was explaining, that there's so much information that our brain has to sort of learn what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. And so because we are computationally bounded observers with finite time, we can't pay attention to everything. We can't absorb all information that's present. And so we've evolved to be really good at learning how to prune, right? Or not pay, and know what not to pay attention to. And I think that's a fascinating concept because, I'm all about knowledge and knowledge acquisition, but so much of that, like if you start to take on too much, so to speak, then it bogs you down, right? It becomes this limiting structure. And so there's this weird balance between like order and disorder, okay? And knowledge being order and disorder being like chaos and entropy and all that other stuff, right? But I just find it fascinating. And I think it's so interesting how it's like we have to learn, we evolve and learn how to ignore certain information. And that's really what it's about, because there is just so much information around us. Like everything is so information dense. Like there's just constant stuff happening that we end up having, and what we've evolved to do is find these sort of higher level abstractions to be able to see things. So one example that I like to talk about and think about is when you look at a desk, right? You don't see every single individual atom that makes up the desk, right? Because there's just so many of those little sockets. Like there's just, there's trillions and trillions and trillions of these atoms in the desk, right? That make up the desk. So what we've sort of figured out this sort of, this coarse graining, this higher level abstraction that allows us to just go, oh, that's one desk, instead of, X trillion atoms that make up the desk. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely. Imagine that we could see all the atoms, dude. So sometimes I feel like when I've done mushrooms, I was able to see like more profoundly, like at the moving parts of objects. If you really hone in on something, you can almost see like things breathing. And I almost feel like I'm looking at the atoms.
Yes. So yeah, absolutely. Okay. So this is one of those things. And so I've had the same thing, but with trees, right? When I was outside looking at tree, I just get lost. Like I'm like, gee, like, and there is so much amazement in the tree. But the other crazy thing is, in order to be able to perceive all of that, I can't be thinking or perceiving any other thing. So I'm lost in the tree. I'm fully absorbed in that tree. And that's the only way I can see that level of detail. And even then, it's not everything. It's just a lot more than usual. But isn't it interesting that when you're paying attention at that level of detail, how much wonder and amazement and beauty and enjoyment you can get just from looking at a desk or a tree?
Yeah, it's
right?
like you're just like in awe, in complete awe. It's amazing. And
Yeah,
the more you look, the deeper you get, and the more you look, the more it seems like it's breathing and moving. It's it's amazing. Such a great feeling.
it is. And very powerful for your perspective. But the other thing to understand is the more you focus, the more you're zooming in, the more you're restricting your ability to see and comprehend anything else and out at the higher levels. Because as you zoom in, there's just more and more information to get consumed by.
Have you ever had a hallucinating experience where you saw something, but it actually wasn't there? Because it's one thing to see, a tree breathing, right? Or to see trails or maybe like lights, affecting your perception. But have you ever hallucinated to the point where you actually saw something, but it wasn't there?
On psychedelics or just normal?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. On psychedelics. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. But when you say wasn't really there, that's interesting because I'm a believer in the Ruliad, the universe in that regard. Not so much like the concept of it. No, I don't think it's as well defined as it could be just yet. But anyway, and so I believe that we pass or perceive a certain subset of the universe, right? And what we see, and we see trees and we see desks, we see the sky is blue, blah blah blah. That's like a collective hallucination, and it just so happens that majority people all sort of agree on that hallucination, and we sort of converge to that, and that's why we think that it's real in that sense. So have I ever seen something that wasn't really there? Well, if you mean by real, if you mean that the collective also perceives to be there, then yes, I have had that. Seen stuff that wasn't really there, so to speak. But I don't know. I also think that, like, in a sense, like it's just a different way to perceive information that's being transmitted or that you're receiving. And this is a hard thing. We get stuck in these weird loops with this stuff. But okay, so when you see something that isn't really there, you could just be seeing or focusing in on information that every other person is not paying attention to.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
And
okay.
one sec. And we always
Yeah.
see stuff that isn't really there because our brain hallucinates it. We don't see the thing out there. Our brain predicts and hallucinates it in here.
Right.
and then we think that we're seeing it out there. Right, but our brain is stuck in this black box. Like it's enclosed in the skull. It doesn't see anything. It just receives information, and then it processes that information, and it predicts what that is.
It's like the difference between someone who's like crazy and someone who's not crazy, confirming something that is there. Like if you see, I don't know, Mickey Mouse, and your buddy's like, yeah, I also saw Mickey Mouse, then you're not crazy. But if you're the only one that is seeing Mickey Mouse, then Polska, I think you've lost it.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Correct. No, that's it. Yes, absolutely. And so many crazy people throughout history have helped to shape the way that we see reality now. Right? So you got to remember, like, we used to think that everything revolved around us and the earth. And then they, what was his name? I'm going to blank on all this. Anyway, the gentleman proposed that no, in fact, we orbit the sun and that the sun does not orbit us. And everyone was like, no, you're crazy. Okay. But he wasn't. You see what I'm saying? And as a species, we didn't see that until he brought our attention to being able to see it in that way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, when I asked you, Rubes, if you've ever seen anything that wasn't there on like any hallucinogen, like shrooms or acid or whatever, is because I've heard people tell stories that they took mushrooms and that they saw Mickey Mouse. And each time I heard like a story of that nature, like they saw something that isn't there, I always had like extreme doubts because I don't think I've ever seen something that wasn't there while on a hallucinogen. Obviously, I've seen things that were pronounced or when you hallucinate, like things are pronounced or animated more or seem like they're breathing,
More
and
vivid.
your space, the space around you seems like it's moving. But I don't think that like mushrooms can actually put Mickey Mouse in front of you, for example. So that's sort of what I was getting at. Like, have you ever heard people tell you those stories or them having an experience where they literally saw something that isn't supposed to be there?
Yeah, all the time. I've had them too. Not with the Mickey Mouse. So it's not that mushrooms put Mickey Mouse there. It's that it's changing the way your brain is perceiving. So psychedelics work in interesting ways, but part of it is quieting down certain regions of your brain, or reducing the interconnectivity of certain regions and other regions of your brain. And so it can affect the predictions your brain makes, essentially. So it means that your brain can hallucinate different things. That's what hallucinogens do, right? And so one way to think about this, because I'm big on this whole Wolfram Physics project and that kind of stuff, right? Is they talk about, and Jonathan Garrard is one of the people who really pushed these ideas and made them clear for me, right? But one thing in the Wolfram Physics project is this concept of the Ruliad, which is the universe is all possible formal systems. So anything that can is in the universe, and we are just experiencing a small subset of that, right? And so this ties into this whole multiverse hypothesis and all these other things where there's just all the different universes that can be are, and that you and I are having this conversation in some slightly different way, and then in some very different way, and then not even having it in another universe. All of that stuff, okay? But the Wolfram Physics way of looking at this is this in this Ruliad, right? And so we're experience a certain slice of the universe, which means we inhabit a certain space in Rulial Space, or we inhabit a certain region in Rulial Space, dictated by the rules that we're bound by, okay? Or that generate us, so to speak. Now, one way to think about psychedelics, I think, is that when you take psychedelics, it sort of transports you in Rulial Space to a slightly different region, which changes your perception and your experience, or how you're passing the universe, which leads to these different perceptual experiences. So for me, one experience I've had on LSD is taking a good dose, right? Like a very, very good dose. And the whole experience. But then later on in the evening, I went outside and was looking at the sky. Right, it was a beautiful, beautiful, dark, clear night, and where I live is there's no light pollution or anything like that. So you can see like the Milky Way, actually. Like, it's an incredible experience. So sitting out there, lying back, nice fire going, a little fire, not too big. Obviously, don't want to pollute the light. Don't want to cause light pollution. But anyway, looking at the stars, and then all of a sudden, and this is after learning a lot of this Wolfram Physics project stuff and hypergraphs and all the connectivity. So a lot of it is probably some form of prediction as well. Imprinting as well. And I start to see that every single star is connected, that everything is connected by like these graphs, okay? And then I start to see or perceive or hallucinate how the morphing is happening between these graphs, and it's growing and shrinking, like you said, breathing, right? Like it's oscillating, it's moving, it's doing this whole big thing. Some things are becoming more interconnected, and then I'm focusing in on one star, and I'm zooming in, and I'm seeing how that star is just a collection of these edges and vertices. It's a graph, right? And the more I zoom into that, the more interconnected it's getting in there, and the faster it's moving, and all this other. So, I perceive that. I don't regularly perceive that. And so I would classify that as seeing something that isn't normally there, right? But that doesn't mean that it isn't happening. That doesn't mean that it's not always there. And it's just, what it sort of tells me is that, like, you need to be in a certain state or in a certain frame of reference to be able to perceive it at that level, or in that way, through that reference frame or through that perspective. And it just so happens that my normal perspective is not that, and it's just more efficient for me to perceive it as night sky and stars. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's sort of how these optical illusions work, right? It's hijacking like your perception, or it's deviating your normal perception of something. Sort of like when you were looking at the stars and you saw them sort of connecting and then oscillating. I guess the LSD is sort of like altering your perspective or heightening your perspective in a certain way, where you're able to sort of create this optical illusion. Or maybe it's like unveiling like a mask, and you're able to see more.
We'll see it differently. What I'm saying is, I think it shifts your reference frame or shifts your perspective. And so when I mean when we take psychedelics, I think it is a way of transporting ourselves to a different place in Rulial space or a different region, which then changes our perception and how we experience the universe. Yeah. It allows us to change our reference frame. And when you change your reference frame, it changes what you see. It changes how you experience. So even though it's the same thing, it changes how you experience and how you perceive that same thing. Yeah. And what we're really getting at here is there are many different ways to look at one thing, and how you look at it, or the reference frame you have, or the perspective you have, will dictate what you see to some degree.
Yeah, I find like thinking back to the green needle. What was the other one? Something storm, right?
Brainstorm. That's what I hear.
Yeah. So we were, because like I conditioned myself to see green needle, right? I'm going to continuously hear green needle. And because we've conditioned ourselves to perceive life and earth in the way like that we perceive it, because we're looking at it from the same perspective as everybody else. We're sharing sort of this perspective. And I guess like psychedelics allow you to sort of do like a lateral step and see things a little bit differently. But I imagine that you could possibly achieve that without psychedelics. I don't know how you would train yourself to do it, but there's probably a way where you can sort of try and take away all of your, like, because we've been primed to see things the way we see them, right? If we could sort of like take that away, unprime ourselves, you know, not sure how we could achieve that, but if we could achieve that somehow, maybe we could see things in a completely different way and get like a completely different understanding of how the world works.
Yes. So there are ways, and we can discuss them now. So knowledge is one. So acquiring new knowledge will allow you to see things differently or in new ways. Okay. But then you have this concept of wisdom. So think of knowledge as like acquiring new models or new ways to make predictions or to know things, so to speak. But then wisdom is one interesting way of defining wisdom is knowing what knowledge to trim. So you think about knowledge as like building this big tree or growing this big tree of knowledge. And then wisdom is knowing which bits to prune. Okay. So those two concepts. Now, how can we do this? Well, many people have done this through breath work, through meditation, through learning, acquiring new knowledge. It changes your perspective. So think about when you learn a new word, right? Or you add a new word to your vocabulary, all of a sudden you can start to see that concept that word points to or refers to everywhere. Once you understand the concept of leverage, you can really start to see, oh, leverage would be really powerful here, or oh, a bit of leverage would help me move this object over here, or see what I'm saying? How by learning a new concept, it changes your perspective. And why I think this is the case is because knowledge is a structure. It is a self-persistent structure, and it's interesting in that regard. But it's also, as you sort of have these structures or take these concepts on board, you're changing your structure in some sense, right? And then that changes how information passes through you, which changes your experience of that information. Yeah. And so I think there's those important two steps, which is the acquisition of this knowledge and then learning how to prune that knowledge. So what you've done is you've acquired a model for green needle. And what we need to find out now is how can you prune your model of green needle so that you can then adopt brainstorm?
I think one of the most powerful techniques is when something goes wrong, right? Like let's take an assignment for example. When you were in university and you were working on an assignment and you lost, like you didn't save it, or like your computer crashed and you lost some of your work, right? It's a very like detrimental moment emotionally, because just losing work it just fucking sucks, right? But it's actually an opportunity to do it better the second time around. Like that's like a really healthy and like a really difficult perspective to have. But to take a step back and then think, okay, there's nothing I can do. I can't turn back time. So there's no point in being upset. Now I have an opportunity to do it even better this time.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
So yeah, it's a reframing. That's a really powerful tool that us as humans possess, is that ability to reframe. So that what you just described is that circumstance is neither good nor bad. It is what you made of it or what you make of it. Correct? So you can either get stuck in feeling like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is so bad. Or you can flip your reference frame or your perspective on the situation and go, oh, here's an opportunity for me to do it again and even better.
Yeah, because I think we're primed to feel a certain way when we lose work, right? When we're working really hard on something and we lose like our progress. I think humans are primed to feel angry, upset, and complain. And it's really difficult to sort of get over that hump, because like again, I just think we've been primed to act a certain way from what we've learned from, our environment, sometimes our parents or our friends or TV shows, is that people's normal reaction to things is a negative emotion. So I think we're primed to sort of feel that way.
Yeah, definitely. And it can be useful in certain circumstances. It's up to you to identify when it isn't as useful. And this is why I like that definite, like to frame things in terms of usefulness or not non-usefulness, right? So if is it useful to feel that pain and discomfort? Well, sometimes it might be. And then other times it might not be, because it's just a waste of time and energy doing that, when you go, okay, well, the only thing that's going to change this outcome is me doing it again. So I may as well not feel bad about it. I may as well go, here's an opportunity for me to do it again and better.
So I'm going to go a little bit left field, bro. Have you ever seen a ghost?
Well, no. And I don't, okay.
Do you
so
know
the typical,
anyone who's seen a ghost?
yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
When I was a kid, I thought I saw one, like all that kind of stuff. But I think that's just your brain hallucinating it. Now, when I was talking before about the Rulial space and different ways to perceive it, could ghosts exist? What is a ghost? Well, okay, I'll go through mine in a second, but what's your what do you think a ghost is? Like, there's a typical definition of a ghost, right? What do you think that is? Or what do you think the typical definition is?
I think it's that it's someone's, I guess, spirit or soul that has been left behind after like someone has died, and it's been left behind, or it's been left like here on Earth, because there's some sort of unfinished business. But I think that's like the Casper idea. I think I learned that from the movie Casper, right? Is that ghosts sort of are hanging around because they have some sort of unfinished business on this
Yes.
world.
I think that's a pretty typical description. Now, do you have a version for your own belief? Like, do you think that they exist, and do you think that they might be a thing?
I I mean, I don't want to say no. I'm open-minded to anything, but I don't have a personal ghost experience, bro.
Okay.
I've heard so many ghost stories, and especially being in South America, everyone has a ghost story here, dude. Everybody's seen a ghost or a demon or something, and I've never in my life had an experience like that. And I'm waiting. I'm like, yo, when am I gonna have mine? I've actually had a conversation with a buddy down here about this, because he's had multiple encounters with ghosts, and all the stories sort of seem kind of ridiculous. And I told him, well, I'm waiting for mine, bro. When am I gonna have my ghost experience? And he looks at me, he's like, yo, Polska, don't say that, dude. You do not want to have an experience with a ghost. It's fucked up, and it'll fuck you up. And I was like, yo, all right, all right. All right, maybe I don't want one. But no, I haven't had one. And but I'm not saying they don't exist. I can't say for sure, right?
Yeah.
But
I I don't think that they exist in the sense that most people think. I don't think that they're a soul that's stuck here in the rest. I think that we are the unique, said this many times on the pod, but we're the unique entanglement subgraph that makes us up. Like, we're a unique connection of different points in the universe, or in the Ruliad, and that's what makes us us, is that unique interconnectedness or entanglement. And we've typically associated a soul with the essence of the being, and it's a separate thing in some sense. But I think that once we die, or once that entanglement between the connection, or the unique set of connections and entanglement between those connections that make us as a person, like you as Polska or me as Ruben, once they cease to be in that form and they start to absorb back into the planet, because that's really where they go, or the planet and the air. But in this sphere that, around the planet, right? Let's just say that they go back to the soil and the air, okay? Back to Mother Nature, so to speak. I think that's when our soul goes as well. And so I don't think that it stays around. Now, do I think ghosts could be real in some sense? Yes. But maybe they're higher dimensional beings, or maybe not. Beings is probably a bad word. Maybe they're higher dimensional objects or instantiation, or and then when they sort of pass through, or we go past each other in Rulial Space or something like that, we could see artifacts of it, or we might have some sort of experience.
like a glitch in the Matrix.
Oh yeah, that's another way of thinking about it for sure. But I think a lot of the time it's more just like, I think it's a human based sort of cope, and we personify certain things, or we come up with explanations that work for us. Yeah, I've got a bunch I want to say on this, but I can't articulate it as good as I would like.
All right, here's my take on it. Here's my take. Because most of the ghost stories I've heard, right, it's like they're waiting to see something. Like, for example, if you go to a haunted house, right, or there's a lot of famous haunted houses around the world, right? So if you go to one, you're already primed to see something. Like, you are waiting to see something. You're waiting to hear something. So it's sort of like, and you're sort of creating this optical illusion, right? So if you're in a haunted house, your sense of like hearing is heightened. you're much more sensitive to noises, much more sensitive to certain lights, because you're constantly scanning, waiting for something to happen. Maybe you're checking the time. Maybe you heard that at 12 o'clock something happens. And so all of this is just sort of priming yourself to sort of see an optical illusion, right? Maybe a car goes by and like a light's pass through or something, or, old houses sometimes creak because, they're old. So I think sometimes people, they are perceiving maybe like some sort of optical illusion that's happening, and they're identifying that was a ghost. Did you guys hear that? Did you see that? I think I saw the ghost, right? The one that they're expecting to see. Now, in the case of my friend, which had the ghost stories here, I don't remember what the stories were exactly, but it was happening at his house at a certain time, right? At night. A certain day. It was all these things. Like, it was like a certain day, certain time. So something might have happened that was sort of strange one time. And then he looked at the time. Okay, look, it's 9 o'clock on a Monday. And then 9 o'clock next Monday, he's now waiting
Predicted.
for something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's exactly. So I think in his situation, something kept happening over and over, because that was his story, that this wasn't only like a one-time thing, but every Monday at 9 o'clock, I was hearing these fucked up sounds and I was seeing some fucked up shit. And I think it's because something little happened one time, and now he's like predicting it, primed for it happening over and over again. So that's sort of like my take on the whole ghost
I
thing.
completely agree with you. So I like that's exactly what I think is happening for the majority of them. Is that's the brain is predicting that, absolutely. So like, you want to see aliens, you see aliens, kind of thing. And you can get stuck in it, just like you can't not hear Green Needle and I can't not hear Brainstorm. Our brains are stuck predicting that, right? And I genuinely think that accounts for the vast majority of all of these things. But I don't want to dismiss completely the fact that there are other ways to perceive and see the universe, just like you said, and that they're like, we're locked into seeing reality the way that we perceive it currently, right? But I also know that that's not the only way, and that some of these people might be perceiving reality or being able to perceive it in a different way, and that doesn't mean that it isn't real in that sense. It's just a different way to see it. Whether or not it's useful or not, who the hell knows? Okay. But an interesting thing, and is that even Wolfram talks about this as well with aliens, right? Like, in some sense, there's aliens all around us, right? Like, everything is alien in that sense. But also, if aliens were very far away from us in Rulial Space, we wouldn't be able to perceive them. We wouldn't be able to interpret what they are, because they would be so distant from us in Rulial Space that the translation language would be too vast and too complex for us as computationally bounded observers to be able to instantiate. So we wouldn't be able to see them, so to speak, or interpret or comprehend them in some way. So we'd always have to come up with some low resolution or low dimensional way of interpreting whatever was happening and coming up with some interpretation. So that could be a ghost, right? That could be some weird thing happening. Yeah, it's just sketchy, but I agree with you 100%, Guy. I think you nailed that.
But I would love to see a ghost, though. I think it'd be so fascinating to go to a haunted house and actually have like a real encounter. It'd be crazy.
What do you mean, real encounter?
Like, if you go to a haunted house and you legit see a ghost,
but how do you legit see anything?
Okay. So me and you
would
go to a haunted house, right? Right.
You want to have a shared ghost experience. That's what you.
Rubes, did you see that? Yo, of course I fucking did. We're gonna get the fuck out of here. No, hold on. There might be more. I'm not staying here any longer. I want to have like that, like we both saw a ghost, dude.
Yeah, so
we're sure of it.
Yeah, so you're taking real as if more than you just see it, then it's real.
Yeah, I mean, as ridiculous as that sounds, I think that's
life.
how we would measure it, though, right? That's the only way to really, I mean, maybe video footage, but then sometimes video footage gets like distorted, like a light hits the lens of a camera and like it's sort of
That's because it can't
distorted.
capture the high dimensional ghost either, guy, or the aliens
Yeah,
either.
yeah. There you go. There you go.
um,
So
so look, I think that you could have that experience, whether or not it would be a real ghost. I doubt. But anyway, I think you could arrange that, guy. Why don't you just get a whole bunch of people who believe in ghosts and go and find some haunted house and have that shared experience?
no, because I know that they all believe in ghosts. So it's like
Or you're wrecking it for
it's
yourself.
yeah. I need to go with somebody who's like, no, there's no such thing as ghosts, dude. You know, like if
Oh,
me and you went, then it would be legit, right?
okay. So you're okay. I like this. This is interesting. So you're what in some sense, something's very real for you. If even though you know it not to be true and you're like completely against the fact that it's real, even like with all of that skepticism, you still have an experience or you still have a perception. That would be realer for you.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
it. Yeah. I love that idea. That's really cool. That that's actually mad interesting.
Yeah, because if we can both confirm that we saw something, then to me that would be a real experience because
It's a realer
it,
experience.
yeah, a more yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But then
Yeah.
but then if we try telling other people, like imagine trying to tell other people, right? Like our family and be like, yo, like, listen, I don't believe in ghosts. And neither does Ruben. But we went there and we saw one. Like this is two people saying that they don't believe ghosts, went to haunted house and saw ghosts. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we would definitely need video evidence.
Yeah. But even that's like arguable. It would have to be such clear video evidence. It would have to be, I mean, because even that shit could be faked. And again, like light
Absolutely.
can sometimes distort the lens. Yo, guy, what do you think about people who are possessed, by the way? Now that we
Well,
got into ghosts.
okay. So I think possession is, I do think people can be possessed in some sense, right? So we talked about Moloch and Metatron and that kind of stuff in another pod, and how there are kind of like these, meta concepts that persist throughout time, and people have typically associated them with being gods. Does that kind of make sense? And then possession is typically in regards to demons or, some bad entity. But I think that really can exist. So I think possession can happen in a way where you have models or you've acquired prediction mechanisms, models that inform your predictions, that end up being like quote unquote bad, if that makes sense, or detrimental to you or to others, or they inform your perception or interpretation of the universe in a specific way that results in you doing behaviors or conducting yourself in a way that is not conformal to the local society, right, that you're in. So I think that is like a possession. I think people can develop habits and kinks with their behaviors, in their personalities, with their pleasures, with their all of those things. And I think you could consider that to be a form of possession. But I think what possession really is it's just like it's an old school, low resolution term to describe like that whole class of things.
Have you ever heard some sound recordings of someone that was possessed? Like I've heard some online where it sort of sounds like you can hear like the original voice of the person, sort of, and then there's like another voice on top of it that is not theirs. It sounds like a demonic voice. Have you ever heard any of these recordings before?
I have heard a couple. I can't remember why I was listening to these, but I have. Yes, I know what you mean. But I also like, have you ever just heard random noise? Like random noise that gets made can sound very demonic. And
Yeah,
again,
it's true.
what you're hearing is not what's really happening. It's informed by it, but your brain is still predicting what it is.
Fun.
So there's always this error. There's no perfect communication of information.
It's another one of those things where I'm having a hard time believe that it exists, and I want it to exist because I think it's interesting. Not that I want anyone to ever become possessed, because that just seems like horrible. But also at the same time, the other side of me is thinking, no, like I kind of would like to. That is something that seems interesting, and I'd like to witness that as well. But again, I haven't had any personal experiences, and I've never met anyone who has told me that they knew of someone actually being possessed. Like, this is just all shit that I've kind of heard online. Actually, recently on the PDB, I think it's PDB podcast with you know which the valuetainment one. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
There was a priest.
Patrick Bet David.
Yeah, Patrick Bet David. Yeah. Yo, he's grown on me, dude. I actually watch some of his shit. And like I like it. I like it a lot now, actually. Yo, shout out to PDB or whatever it is podcast.
God, you love him so much. You got to remember his podcast name, Patrick Bet David,
I know.
PBD.
Yeah. So, anyways, there was this priest that he had on, and he was sharing stories about what's it called when a priest tries to take a demon out of a person's
exorcism.
body. Yeah, an exorcism. Fuck. And his stories were really compelling. You know what I mean? And like I don't know why he would make it up. Even well, he is a priest. He's sort of making things up all the time. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking around. But his stories were really compelling. Like his experiences with exorcisms and performing exorcisms. I was like, yo, maybe this can happen. And going back to what you said, right? Maybe it's not the way that it's presented in movies, but people's minds, because minds are sort of plastic. I mean, look at schizophrenia, for example, right? Like a person who has schizophrenia, they suffer from many sort of illusions or hallucinations. So that the mind is very, very powerful in sort of getting you to hallucinate or even, believe things that aren't real, or sort of like
we do it all the time. That's reality for us, right? It's just, it's a bigger deviation from the norm, right?
So maybe that's what being possessed is.
Yeah. So what I was going to say to you just then is, well, now, right? You were asking before, like, is there a way that you can, like, unveil and see it completely differently? Like, can you just not hear green needle anymore and start to hear brainstorm, right? And exorcism is a form of that. Like, imagine that the person that's possessed is stuck perceiving reality in a certain way. They think certain things are true. And then the exorcism is the way of, like, let's think, we use that in this analogy with you hearing green needle, but wanting to hear brainstorm. So the possessed person, imagine like they're stuck hearing green needle, but the rest of the people around them in their community and the greater community is hearing brainstorm. And that's why they think they're crazy. And everyone's telling them that they're crazy because they all hear brainstorm, but the person that's possessed is hearing green needle. And so then the priest doing the exorcism is a way of getting that person to, or pruning their model, right, or their belief structure, their knowledge structure in a certain way so that it drops off green needle and it can adopt brainstorm. And that's essentially what the exorcism process is a way of switching their reference frame by updating pruning their knowledge structure and putting a new thing in, or updating their belief system. And that can be through a whole bunch of rituals and words. And look, the crazy thing is that us as humans, we co-program each other with our words. Like every time you engage in a conversation with somebody, your entire worldview and world model could be changed. This is what defensiveness is, right? This is why people are defensive, because they're protecting their worldview. They're not just letting whatever you say program them specifically. You've got to have some barriers, right? It's like why we have skin. Because if we didn't have skin, then everything could just get inside us and fucking fuck with us and take what they want and do whatever. It's that barrier. And it's the same. We have a barrier with our minds as well. And that's like your ego is part of that. But it all ties in. Does that kind of start to click a little bit? I've got it in my head clear, but if none of that makes sense, let me know.
No, it does make sense. It does make sense, bro. So, do you have any experiences with the Ouija board by any chance?
No, but I've seen it, and I know people who have played with Ouija boards and were like convinced that that's a thing.
Well, what did they say? What were their stories? Because I've heard a story before. I don't have any personal experiences with it because I don't think you can't really get your hands on them very easily. You can make your own though, right? But
God, I'm sure
what
just
was
Amazon that shit for sure.
really you could buy them for real?
Probably.
Yeah,
I'd put money on you can
maybe.
buy them pretty easily. Okay, so it's always girls. I don't know why, but it's always girls that have played with the Ouija boards, and they all do their thing about it, and that they think that spirits talk to them. I don't think that's the case as much. I think it's like a synchronicity kind of thing, or just like a random chance thing, or I think it's our ability as humans to find patterns in things. And again, it comes down to that prediction thing. Like a lot of them believed in it, knew about it, wanted to do it. And therefore, when they did do it, something happened. Similar to the ghost stuff.
Yeah, it's like being primed for an experience, right?
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, we had a religion teacher because I went to a Catholic high school, and my religion teacher had this Ouija board experience, and she shared it on Halloween. She said that it's a real story, it's a true story, and this is what happened.
True for her.
Yeah, true for her. So she was at like a family reunion, like a family get together or whatnot, and someone busted out the Ouija board, and a few of them started playing, right? And they're fucking around on the Ouija board, and suddenly they ask it a question, and the Ouija board responds with that all of your lambs will bleed or something, or something bad is going to happen to all your lambs, right? And they didn't really understood what that meant. And I guess throughout the course of that evening, one kid from each person's family got hurt and drew blood in some sort of some weird way. Like one, was running around, fell down, scratched his arm, and he got cut and started bleeding, right? And apparently this happened to 4 different children from 4 different families that were there that night after the Ouija board said that all your lambs will bleed or whatnot. And I always remember that story, like, yo, that is a real fucked up story. And what a coincidence, right? Like how, I mean, that story has always stayed with me for some reason. It's kind of crazy, right?
Well, it is if it's true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like stuff like that happens all the time in life. And I don't know, there's like a good saying, it's like everything's obvious in hindsight. So like all your lambs will bleed. They didn't say the kids are going to get hurt or anything. It's kind of like a broad statement. Okay. And then all of a sudden, 4 kids do hurt themselves or draw blood, right? So then it's like, that's what that meant. Like in hindsight, it's easy to associate that with being that, whereas it didn't specifically state that. So I'm like, it's all, I don't know. I find that this is very common with these kinds of things, like low resolution predictions, or very broad statements in that regard. So a good analogous thing would be like, what are they? Mystics, like people that can, what are they called? Clairvoyance and what's psychics? That's the one. Psychics. Okay. And it's like, a relative of yours, and then the person's like, my mom. And they're like, yes, your mom. She was old when she died. Yes, she was 75. It's like, relative, J. My great
Jason.
uncle's, yeah,
Jason, talking about Jason.
yeah, my great uncle's cousin Jason. It's just
Yeah.
like, like you can make these incredibly broad, like you can actually play with it pretty well. It's actually, it's interesting to understand the psychology too, because a lot of the people that go for these things and go to the shows or pay to go to these people, they want that to be true. So they're also more willing to participate in it. And it's the same as with hypnotism. In order to get hypnotized, you have to be willing to be hypnotized. You've got to want to be hypnotized to get hypnotized. But it can actually work for you, right? That's the crazy thing. But if you don't, then it's very hard for it to work. And it's just, I find it's the same with all of these things. And I think it's, we co-create this reality. We co-create what we perceive to be real with other people. And yeah, it's a box thing. Sorry, that was a random tangent, but yes, you scared the shit out of me with Jason. I was like, had my eyes closed.
Sorry, dude.
No, it's all good. That was hilarious. I legit got a shot.
I had it on mute because all the dogs in the neighborhood are fucking barking like crazy. I don't know what's going on, guy.
Ghost guy, you've had to have your experience, dog. All the ghosts
there's
are
a ghost
mobilized. The ghost storm coming to your place.
Yo, I'll welcome that ghost with open arms, though. Like,
Of course,
I don't
that's
see
why
why
the ghost is.
I would be scared of it.
Well, you've got no reason to be scared of it. It's a ghost. Can't fuck with you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'd be like, yo, have you ever blazed before? Or sorry, can you even blaze? Are you able to blaze? If we light the joint, can you? Oh shit, you dropped it. Oh fuck.
What if I blow it through you?
That's
Put your lips on my lips.
or just like, yeah, or come inside me. Come inside me as I'm smoking it. Are you inside me yet? Are you inside me yet? Okay, ready? Did you get it? Are you high?
I want to get an STD check before you let it come inside you, guy.
Dude, you can't get STDs from ghosts, bro. What are you talking about?
Well, what if there's ghost
They're
STDs?
STD free. Well, then I would have to be a ghost to get ghost STDs, right?
Yeah,
if
but what
it's a
if
ghost STD?
What if a ghost is a lost soul, and then that lost soul touches your soul, and it gives your soul a supernaturally transmitted disease, STD, supernaturally transmitted disease, guy.
Shit. So what you're saying is when I die, when I pass, then my ghost will already have STDs.
But what if it infects your soul currently, and then you become possessed?
From the STD? Like
from the supernaturally transmitted disease, guy.
Fuck, I guess I'll have to call up that exorcism dude, the priest from the PBD podcast. I'll just call up Patrick. Yo, can you hook me up with the priest? I've been possessed with a STD ghost. Imagine trying to explain that one to the priest. So I was trying to get high with this ghost, and I told the ghost to come inside me, not knowing that the ghost had an STD, and now I'm possessed.
Yes, I love it.
No, bro, you're not possessed. You're just fucking stupid, and we don't work with that.
But you got to give him more context, guy. You got to be like, yo, we were having a podcast where we were talking shit about ghosts. We were saying how they're not real and how I wanted to have an experience. And my buddy warned me that it would fuck me up, but I didn't believe him. So then we started making fun of the ghosts.
Yeah, I guess we'll have evidence, right? This podcast. So if I become possessed now, it's gonna seem more real since we've already talked about it. Since I'm already primed. I've already primed myself for becoming possessed.
I think you are the next candidate for sure. We have to keep a track on your personality from now on.
Fuck, guy. Which is not it's not a good measurement because I think my personality does change from, like, I don't think it changes day to day, but if we were to track my personality over like a 5-year span, I think it would be different, actually. I feel like I go through huge changes every 5 years or so. Like if I look back, yeah, every 5 years I've gone through like massive changes.
Well, I would posit that you're going through changes continuously, and it's just that 5-year window is sort of like, that's a convenient level of abstraction. That's a convenient course grading where you can see clear, distinct shifts in those 5-year chunks. Whereas into year, it might not be as clear. Again, that's a coarse graining. I love that concept.
Yeah, like I think the biggest changes were probably in my 20s, right?
Yeah,
Like,
formative years, big time.
yeah, like between 20, 25 is huge. But then like 25, 30, that was even a larger change. I thought I was an adult when I was 25, and then it's like, yo, when I was 30, it's like, yo, I was not even close.
I was a child.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't even like saying that. You know when people say, "Oh, well, like what maturing is or what being an adult is." I kind of, I'm not really feeling that. I think it's kind of all bullshit because I never really want to be that template uh, adult. You know, the sort of society places on us, right? Because or sometimes people even say, "Oh, you need to mature," and they're sort of portraying their own personal belief of what mature is onto you, and whatever that they might perceive as mature, it could be incorrect, right? Or they're just
Absolutely.
trying to control a way.
You
They're just
behave.
trying to control you in a certain way to try and get you to be a certain person that you're not.
Absolutely. My
Yeah.
whole thing on all of this is adults are actually just old kids. And everyone likes to like, oh, I'm an adult, I'm this. No, it's like a perception of power. When really, no, you're a kid that's got older, and largely you probably haven't got more mature. You probably just hard coded a bunch of shitty behaviors and learned to hide them better. Like,
Yo, it's true though. It's true
yeah.
though. Like, okay, like I still think like farts are mad funny. You know, I don't think I'm ever not gonna think that farts are mad funny or burps.
Why
You
wouldn't
know
you?
what I
Why
mean?
would you want to get offended by a fart or a burp? I think
Yeah,
that's what
I know. I
it
don't.
says more about your world model. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Farts and burps are funny. I think they're
It
always gonna be funny. And like dick shit is mad funny.
ripping on ghosts, mad funny.
Yeah, exactly. All that shit is always going to be funny. Like it doesn't matter what age I am. I'm hoping I get. I'm hoping I find those things even funnier when I'm older.
Guy, I absolutely. So again, it's how you want to see it. And so what that's really saying when people are like, that's not funny or that's or this, it's like, no, you don't find that funny and you're choosing not to find it funny. You're choosing to be offended by it. And that's actually very informative of your worldview and your world model. And for me, when people do that, I'm just like, that's a mad indicator to just like spend less time around you because it's your prerogative to get offended. And that's boring and annoying. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, you know, I find interesting groups is when you go like if your buddy gets married, right? And they've been and your buddy's been living with his wife for a few years, and then you go to their house and you enter the house and you start looking around. Everything sort of seems um like every adult house sort of has this like this template, right? Like when you open up a magazine, like house magazines, they all look like white and different shades of gray, or like this like grayish, like bluish color with a gray couch and the same picture frames and the same tables and like the same everything, right?
Love,
And then
love, family.
yeah, 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 exactly, exactly, exactly. And then you go in there and you're like, yo, like it just like what the fuck happened to my buddy? You know, like where's all your where's all your Naruto shit? Where's all the Dragon Ball Z shit? Where's all like the the workout shit? Where's all like what happened to all your stuff? Did you get rid of everything? I've seen girl shit everywhere. This is all girl shit. What the fuck's going on in this goddamn house? And then the excuse is, oh well, that stuff is immature. You know, so and so needed to grow up, and part of growing up is getting rid of the Naruto and Dragon Ball Z shit. That's for children. This is an adult house. I'm thinking like that. No, but that's not true. That can't be true. It can't be like this.
Correct. Yeah, that's called a transition from enjoying your life to not enjoying your life. The shit.
Yeah, dude, it's depressing walking into a white and gray fucking. I know you know exactly what house I'm talking about because every
Guy,
goddamn house looks the same.
it is pumping my visual apparatus massively. I know exactly what Polska is referring to. It's mad interesting though, right? I have a little hypothesis with a lot of this stuff is, it's kind of like they're trying to fake it till they make it. So like you see all these houses and you hear these happy stories in the magazines and you see like this picture of this happy couple and like, oh, we got our dream home and the lawn's perfectly mowed and white picket fence. And it's like, they're selling a story, right? Like, or they're selling a vibe or a perception. But then, I don't know, this with, married people or people that have made that transition. A lot of the time, there's a lot of chaos inside their heads and in their relationship, and it might not be the nicest of things or the smoothest. And I don't think it should be smooth sailing the whole way. I think it should be tough. But I sometimes think, are they trying to, people with that sort of perfect house and they're like based off the pictures and stuff like that, neat with all of this, with the white and everything else. Are they trying to like create that order there because in their relationship and in their heads or wherever, it's just chaos and uncertainty? Like, is it like a counterbalance? Does that make sense? Have you ever thought about that?
I am now. I mean, that makes sense to me now. That's great. I love that. It's like, yeah, I'm going to show the entire world how healthy I am up here by painting my entire world in this organized sort of, idealistic image, which I learned from a magazine.
Yeah. Well, and that's how everyone else knows that it's orderly, is because they all see it too in the magazine. And so they can all, it's like that signaling thing. And it's like, yeah, we can just sort of put this facade up to hide the reality. If we present this, then everyone will think that this is what's really happening because that's what they associate with normal and nice and happy and everything else. And then that's good because then they think that, and then we don't have to let them know the real.
What an optical illusion.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, guy, nailed it. It's like, it's exactly the optical illusion. Meanwhile, your body is like just fucking on the edge of implosion on the inside because he's lost all things that hold dear meaning to him.
That's the dude that becomes pissed off and grumpy, and then the narrative is like, oh, he's upset all the time. He's just a grumpy person all the time. He's pissed off all the time, and then he becomes that person.
And then misery loves company.
What?
Misery loves company, right? And then he tries to tell you that you need to grow up and you're stuck in the past, man. Why are you wearing a fruit shirt, guy? This is ridiculous. At some point, you got to grow up. Put a freaking white one on, man. And really, he's just projecting. He's so jealous that he can't rock a fucking fruit salad shirt and he's just hating. And then, his misery loves company, tries to convert you to him. He projects that onto you. And then you're just like, negative, guy, I'm Teflon. None of that's going to fuck with me. Kid for life.
Yeah, that's right, guy. Nothing's going to fuck with these fruits, son. Look at these magical fruits protecting me from ghost STDs and everything.
That's your supernatural condom.
Yeah, the papaya. That's the one right there. That's the magic stuff.
That's where he'll come inside.
Uh-huh. That's I bet you fucking a papaya would be all right. Actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever felt the texture?
Would be all right. Oh yeah. Not the
also,
pineapple though.
No, negative. And the bromelain in the pineapple might have something to say about the skin on your dick too. But also papain, great protein digesting enzyme. I think we've sufficiently dissolved this podcast into the abyss. What do you reckon?
Yeah, and these dogs won't shut the fuck up. I have to go talk to my neighbors yet again. That's a really difficult conversation to have because I'm a gringo, right? So imagine a foreigner coming knocking on your door, and so can we do something about the dogs barking, please? Because like asking someone to get their dogs to stop barking, it's a difficult conversation. It doesn't matter how nice you say it, they're gonna be slightly offended. But
right, there's a few things there, right? likely they can't stop their dogs barking. That's why they're barking. It's just like, the fuck you want me to do? Like, literally. Bro, we tried.
Yeah, I mean, because the neighbor's dogs, once they start barking, like as I'm sure you can hear, they just don't stop. Like literally
Yeah.
hours will go by. It's amazing. I've never had an experience like that before until I lived in this neighborhood. I didn't know dogs had the ability to. You would think at some point they would lose their voice or they would lose their bark, but they don't. They don't.
Correct.
They go on and on and on and on and on, like hours, bro, hours. Like, I'm not over exaggerating.
It's like a chain reaction. I think that, you know, that mimesis thing. Like one bark is a trigger for another dog, and then it barks, and that triggers the other dog, and it just sets off this chain reaction. So
Yeah.
maybe a solution would be buy the dogs some earmuffs. Take some doggy earmuffs over to the dogs and go tell the neighbor, hey, I got your dogs a gift. Can I put it on for them, please?
I've had a fantasy where I go over to my neighbor's house because they're usually not there. That's why the dogs will bark uncontrollably for hours. And I'll just kick in the door and I'll tell, now you're free. Now you're free. Go live your life. Yeah, run like the wind. Bark as much. Get the fuck out of here and bark wherever the fuck you want, but not here anymore. You're free. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a good dream to have, guy.
Yeah. I can't go kicking down people's doors and letting their dogs run free.
Not without a good disguise, okay? And definitely don't wear that shirt because you're fucking noticeable, okay?
That's right. And I know my neighbors wouldn't say shit, dude. I know that they would have my back because everyone's fucking sick of the dogs. So they'd probably go, oh, someone kicked your door down? No. Definitely
Just
didn't
like-
see a gringo with a fruit shirt on doing it. That's for sure.
Someone broke into our house and stole my fruit shirt the other night. I wonder if it was the same person.
That's hilarious.
Oh, shit. That is hilarious. All right. That'll wrap for this episode. That was fun, guy. I enjoyed that. Any
me too.
closing
Thank you.
remarks?
Yeah, if you ever want to prevent becoming possessed by a demon, just don't believe in demons. I think you'd be good.
Correct. But also, if you start finding yourself doing behaviors that you don't want to have or don't align with the direction you want to go in life, address them early, and then you don't run the risk of being overrun by them, which is what some people might call possession.
Definitely do not like the video. Don't subscribe. Don't share the video with anybody because
we want to keep it a secret.
Yeah, we want to keep it a secret. All right.
Thanks,
we
guys.
nailed it that time.
We did, definitely. Peace, love, and have a great night.
Love you, bro. Peace.
Love you too, guy. Bye.
Later.